What's up, everybody? Welcome back to IGN Game Scoop. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. I'm joined today by Ryan McCaffrey,
hello,
Dan Stapleton, and Marty Silva,
hey guys.
making his debut appearance on Game Scoop.
Very exciting.
Be nice to him. And we're talking about Aliens, Colonial Marines, and more broadly...
do we have to, Damon?
We do have to.
All right.
More broadly, the topic of whether or not some publishers paint their games in a more flattering light than they actually end up being when they're released.
I think we have a name for that, don't we?
That name is Bullshot.
Which is coined by Penny Arcade.
Yeah,
in
I think
2005.
okay, that's
we owe them a
trademarked.
nickel.
It's trademarks. It's like Hawkware.
There you go.
Yes. You owe me a nickel.
Yeah, just put it on my tab. Bullshot is what we call like screenshots, basically that have been doctored.
Yeah, photoshopped and the camera positioned in a way that is in no way representative of how it looks when you're at home playing the game on your TV.
It's fairly common. It's been happening for a long time.
Yeah. It's almost universal. I mean, everybody does it. Absolutely everybody. Pretty much the first screenshot you see of any game from any major publisher is almost certainly going to be doctored.
You actually pretty much never see a HUD until we take our own screenshots for an IGN review.
Exactly.
But now Aliens Colonial Marines has received a lot of negative attention for trailers and gameplay demos that were shown off before release, right? And obviously the game was not reviewed very well.
Right. So they took it a step further, where they released these videos and apparently being played of a game that looked much better. And then when it came out, it's obvious that what they were playing is not what we're playing. And whether who knows how that happened exactly? It could have been
Vertical slice, which I can explain if necessary.
Sure. Yeah. Explain to the people at home what a vertical slice is.
When a game is being pitched to a publisher, a lot of them developers will do what's called a vertical slice, where they'll actually take one little part of a game, like maybe a section of a level, and actually make it to completion, to like shipping quality, and then they pitch that to their publisher and say, this is what we're doing, this is what we're aiming for, and then then the publisher goes, wow, that looks cool, we want that game, let's do that, and then they start making a whole game, and sometimes the final product, technical compromises, memory limitations, whatever it is, you can't quite live up to that one little tiny vertical slice.
Yeah. And that's something that a lot of the things we see at E3,
Sure, you're right. You're seeing a vertical slice that's been built for this.
And the bizarre thing for this is that even the sections that were shown in the vertical slice didn't look as good as they did when they were shown in the demos. So they had been taken and stripped way down, but probably redone. Using to a lower quality of standard, probably because of technical limitations.
Yeah, and it wasn't a video that looked cinematic to where you're looking at it like, oh, obviously someone's not playing this. It was a video that looked like someone was playing the game. It was first person. You had the gun. There was a HUD. And I mean, I think that's where a lot of this stems from. Is that the press and then ultimately fans were lied to ostensibly.
Well, so it's questionable whether or not they're lied to, right? I mean, like, what if well, I'm just saying. Let me play devil's advocate. You're working on a game for years. You show it at a public demo, but then what if there are changes happening during development? You have budgetary constraints. Maybe some things have to be cut. That's not really lying to people, right?
Well, I mean, it is and it isn't, because I mean, this kind of thing is kind of an industry standard to an extent. Like, even going back to, I remember like seeing stuff in Half-Life 2 where they had scenes shown in trailers that were cut out. There were enemies that were cut out. And it's like, you could argue, it's like, oh, I thought when I was buying this that I would get that exact thing that I saw. Right. But yes, things do change, especially when games are in development for a long time. BioShock Infinite, it's another good example. It's like we saw
that was a vertical slice. The first time we saw that game was a vertical slice, and there was a section of that.
Yeah. And a bunch of it is faked, basically. It's not actual gameplay. It's
and it never made it into the game.
Right. Yeah. It's them saying we want to. This is our visual target. This is the kind of gameplay we're going for. And like, if we want to see games more than like a few months out at all, then that has to happen. Like, they have to say, here's what we're going for. But it not to this extreme.
The extreme of Aliens.
Yeah.
So we found out this week someone has brought up a class action lawsuit against Sega and Gearbox. The lawsuit claims that Gearbox and Sega falsely advertised Aliens by showing demos at trade shows like PAX and E3, which didn't end up being accurate representations of the final product, and that portrayed a level of graphical fidelity, AI behavior, and even entire levels not featured in the game. The suit explains that by having reviews under an embargo, so they're even bringing us into it, that lifted the day of release, consumers did not have time to learn from critics about the difference in quality in the final product compared to early footage. But that's very common.
I already was going to say that I think this lawsuit has a snowball's chance in hell of succeeding,
Yeah.
but after that part, that's asinine.
Yeah.
I disagree, actually. I mean,
Really?
well, I don't think based on the reviews. Well, okay, let me back up. The thing that I think gives this thing legs is the fact that they were showing these demos and previews and this video even after they started taking pre-orders. And it wasn't until after the pre-orders, like you couldn't cancel your pre-order anymore because it had been fulfilled, that it was revealed that that wasn't actually what you had paid for. So that I think is the damning part.
I see. But they have admitted some, I don't know if wrongdoing is the right word, but Sega agreed to add a disclaimer to the trailers that says they're not reflective of the final product.
Right.
And Randy Pitchford at Gearbox was tweeting with fans saying that he thought the concerns were understood and fair, and we are looking at that. Lots of info to parse, lots of stakeholders to respect. So they have
Damage control.
Right.
Yeah, they've acknowledged that something is not right. But in there, we have a comment from them on the lawsuit. Sega says, Sega cannot comment on specifics of ongoing litigation, but we are confident that the lawsuit is without merit, and we will defend it vigorously.
Right, I mean, they kind of have to say that.
Yeah.
What else are they going to say? Yeah, we did that.
Okay.
It's like there isn't much of a lawsuit then. Then you're just like, okay, we admit we falsely advertised this game.
If Star Wars Episode 1 had come out now, this same crap would be happening.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's like, oh, I saw the trailer. It's the return of Star Wars. It's going to be the best thing ever. And then, oh no, it's Jake Lloyd, and it's a terrible movie.
That's totally different, though. I mean, the trailers looked like, in fact, the final thing looks better than the trailers because they polished those effects. So it's not like that's not saying we're going to give you a Star Wars story and it's going to look absolutely fantastic, and then putting out the movie and it doesn't look fantastic. I mean, they didn't say they were going to give you a story they didn't give you. They just gave you a story you didn't like.
I feel like this it's almost a call to arms for the general consumer to become a more educated gamer, and wait for reviews
By reading
to come
IGN?
out. By reading IGN, by reading reviews, by waiting to
Yes, I
see
agree
what
with
the
you.
final opinion is.
However, the industry, at least the retail industry, runs on pre-orders, right?
Yeah.
Like publishers and GameStop.
Well, GameStop does.
Yeah,
I mean,
they need those
the
pre-orders.
Amazon, to an extent, I suppose, but
And publishers are all now like measuring how well they expect a game to do based on the pre-orders.
Right.
And that's why I think that the solution to this, which I hope arises from this case, but probably won't. But if I were making the calls, I would hold publishers accountable for delivering something that matches or exceeds the quality shown from the moment they start taking pre-orders. So it's like if you want to start charging people for this game, you cannot show something that looks better than what you realistically expect to be able to deliver.
Yeah.
That's the big question here. I wonder if this fiasco will sort of teach publishers and developers in the future not to do this sort of thing.
won't.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the outcome of the case.
Yeah.
If Sega takes a slap on the wrist for this, and Gearbox too, and that will set a precedent that anytime this happens, and at least a stark contrast between what was promised and was delivered, that will snap them to attention. They won't want to risk being fined.
Yeah, so they'd have to send like a $5 rebate to anyone who shows proof of purchase. Like,
$5 off your next
Right.
Sega game.
And in a class action suit, that's how it would work,
usually
or however much the judgment is for.
yeah. Gearbox's comment on the lawsuit was harsher than Sega's. It said, attempting to wring a class action lawsuit out of a demonstration is beyond meritless. We continue to support the game and will defend the rights of entertainers to share their works in progress without fear of frivolous litigation.
I think it's impressive how just in a span of 6 months, Gearbox, stock went down. I mean, honestly,
Well, not literal stock. But
I mean, not literal stock. I mean, how the general game.
So they made Borderlands 2.
It's 2, which is
It was
great.
amazing,
Everyone
and everybody
loves
was
it.
really
Yeah,
thrilled.
yeah.
And then
6 months later,
I
this
actually
happens.
agree with Gearbox with their statement. I mean, I'm not. Aliens is a horrible game. I played through it, and the only reason I kept going is because it was so damn bad. I just wanted to be able to be part of the conversation and have sort of wear it like a badge of honor. But it's a video game. You bought it. It was bad. You move on to the next thing.
Well, I mean that is $60 of somebody's money that they paid for that thing, and they didn't get what they were told they were going to get. I think it's very reasonable to be upset by that.
But I think, to their point, I don't think gamers out there want developers to be like scared to show their product early, right?
Right.
They
No,
don't want that situation.
but I mean, this is not them showing their product early. This is them showing their visual target early, and they knew at a certain point that they were not going to hit that visual target. And if they didn't think that they were going to be able to, they shouldn't have been showing that when they were taking pre-orders, because that is saying, here, buy this. this is what you're going to get.
Yeah.
So what about 5 or 6 years ago? I think when Sony showed off Killzone 3, I think at E3 they showed off this first-person demo, and it looked like it could have been, in game. Someone was playing this, and it looked phenomenal. And then the game came out, and it looked good, but it was nowhere near that. And if that was the only thing you saw, like if you don't go to IGN and read the previews, and that was the only thing you saw, you would be like, well, of course, I need to buy this game. And then the thing you buy, that does not look like that.
Right. I mean, there is obviously, there has to be some wiggle room if we want to see these games before a few months before release. And we kind of have to, or we don't have to, but it's nice. Like if you're following
it benefits publishers certainly to show their games and generate interest ahead of time.
Yeah, right. But as for the review embargo part, to get back to that, like I don't think that has a whole lot of merit, because that has nothing to do with advertising. Like what a reviewer thinks of a game is not. I mean, reviewers can call developers on things or publishers on things, and it does get the message out when things are not as good as they said they were. But I mean, that's regardless of when the game actually comes out and that message gets out there, it has the same effect. So as long as you're not leaping before you look and pre-ordering, then you are insulated from that.
Yeah, I'm sure like publishers don't want us to tell you this, but like there's no reason to pre-order a game. It's not going to sell out.
There's really not.
They don't sell out anymore. There may be a pre-order bonus, but it's probably
I think isn't the usual incentive that GameStop does is, to guarantee your day one copy, otherwise we might run out.
Yeah.
But that never happens anymore. That used to happen.
They used to sell out,
on Super NES cartridges where they would physically get a limited number, but now, these games are shipped out by the truckloads on disc.
And as a PC gamer who downloads everything from Steam and wherever, it's even more preposterous.
Yeah, and it seems like we're getting closer to having console gamers being able to do the exact same thing.
The next generation will absolutely do that.
Yeah.
So, and there's the concept of pre-orders is absurd from that perspective. I mean, the only thing that motivates you to pre-order something is if they sweeten the deal. Maybe they give you a discount. Sure. Maybe they give you some extra DLC or whatever for free. And that's fine, but I would personally rather wait and see if this game is actually going to be any good before I put money on it, rather than saying here's $40 or $50 for a game that might not be good.
The story of Aliens Colonial Marines is fascinating. There's probably a book in there.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah.
There is so much more.
I can't wait for it.
But I mean, if I was one of the games journalists who attended one of these preview events and saw this and wrote a glowing preview, I would feel like I had
which we did, by the way.
Yeah, well, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were deceived.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, they showed us the same demos.
Let's
and we're like,
sue them.
Great.
Let's get in on this.
Yeah, right.
Right. So I mean, that was deceptive.
Yeah.
Like the stuff they showed was deceptive, especially after a certain point. They didn't come out and put out like, okay, here's what it actually looks like now, and this is what we expect to deliver. And that to me is deceptive, and that is false advertising as far as I'm concerned. I would, if I bought it based on that, I would be really pissed off.
Well, thanks, guys. We will continue following this story here at IGN Game Scoop.